To rest, we go straight into the first semi-final of the Recurve Women's Individual, a competition that's going to be contested just with the archers from one country, Korea. Let's go down and meet the first two semi-finalists.
On target number 1, representing the Republic of Korea,
1号马来自韩国
Kang Chaeyoung. On target number 2, representing the Republic of Korea,
2号马同样来自韩国
Ansan. The line judge for this matchup is
起射线裁判
Shannon Russell Kyan. Well, there you have it. Recurve women final 4 underway. It's going to
So
be
Kang Chaeyoung from Korea, the world number 28. Well, kind of sort of ignore the world rankings at the moment, given the fact this is their first outing on at the big competitions. She's 26 years old and as the 2019 Hyundai Archery World Cup final champion. Goes up against her teammate, the 22-year-old world number 5, Ansan, who won the final in 2022. The reigning champion, also a 3-time Olympic champion, history maker Ansan. Bizarrely, surprisingly, in a Hyundai Archery World Cup stage, these two have never faced each other.
So both of them have been out on the field before today. Obviously different circumstances with the break in between, but it does know that they've had a taste of the atmosphere and of the shooting direction, and so they have a little bit of knowledge about the field.
And some success.
And some success, yeah.
So having already taken team gold in both the women's team and the mixed team, Kang gets into the 10 ring for the first time in the match.
Just some really nice shooting here. We were discussing earlier what we were expecting to see in these finals. And one of the things we said, we expect to see at least 18 arrows per final of high quality shooting in terms of scoring, but also technique.
But not a huge amount of difference in the technique. They're all pretty similar, aren't they, in terms of their process?
Yeah, there's a pretty strict regime, I think, in Korea in terms of technique. So you get kind of pressed into this shape, and it works for most of them. And if it doesn't work, then they pick somebody else for whom it does work.
We take a look back at this technique, Chef.
Yeah, it's just pretty much all textbook. You can see there's a minor difference in Ansan has her elbow a bit higher than Kang Chaeyoung. But for the rest, it's very similar. You can see that they have a beautiful expansion through the clicker. There's not too much movement going on that's unnecessary, so it's just
very, very unfussy. But the other thing about it is it's pretty quick as well.
Yeah, typically it's pretty quick. I think Ansan has a slightly quicker shot than Kang Chaeyoung does, but it's only very slightly.
Target of 6 set points for the win. As you can see, Kang taking the first set. So each individual set is contested over 3 arrows. Whoever gets the top score over those 3 arrows gets 2 set points. If they share, or they share the score, they share the points, 1 apiece.
So in the beginning of the session, you mentioned that there was only a slight breeze, but you can see that the breeze is reaching the archers at this moment, especially the 2 arrows shot by Ansan. You could see that her shirt was kind of wavering a bit, so definitely some wind on the venue, but not nearly as much as we've seen in other years here in Shanghai.
9
Well, Kang Chaeyoung making this look fairly easy at the moment, going 4-0 up. You mentioned the wind. I mean, look, it was pretty wet and windy here earlier this week, and as you say, it's settled right down. We're used to there being difficult conditions in Shanghai, changeable, perhaps because we are right on the riverside. But what I think, to just put some reference to what you're saying about the archers can now feel it, what we've seen so far is the wind affecting things down at the target end, because where we're looking at now is pretty shielded on the riverside by a big marquee, and on the other side by the stands. And so they've not really been getting hit with the wind so much on the shooting line.
No, you cannot see like the major movements in the bow arm that we have seen in the past here next to the river. And I think, like you said, it's mostly due to the fact that there's tents and there's stands around them. So it's a pretty shielded situation, and they can focus on their shooting rather than on the wind.
Well, having to focus on her shooting is the triple Olympic champion. First archer to do that at the first opportunity in Tokyo. And San, 4-0 down, hits the centre of the target at the start of the third set.
Dead center. 9
A slight difference in technique between the two of these in how they come into anchor as well. Kang has a bit more of a slow approach to getting to her anchor point, whereas An San, she just like pretty much throws her hand to her face. You can see it here. It's just one movement, and then she gets it right. So I couldn't do that for one. I've tried to speed up my anchoring process, but for me it's just too inconsistent. But I guess with the amount of arrows, like the volume that they've made, you just get used to it.
9
Well, after that third arrow from Anne setting a 29 meant she was always going to extend this one into a fourth set, but it's really good news for her here as she's taken her first 2 set points to close the gap up by 50%. So very much in the match, and looks like after a little wobble in the second, she's found the middle of the target.
Yeah, she has indeed. The second arrow went a bit higher, as we just saw, but yeah, it looks like she knows what to do to hit the middle of the target now. Not that she didn't know before, but you need to get a feel for the venue a bit, and need to get a feel for the match before you can start shooting tens. And some people are a bit quicker than others in doing that.
Now, if it was anyone else facing Kang Chaeyoung at 4-0 down, you'd say, well, this one's pretty much over now. It's Kang's got this. But it's not the case with An San. You do fancy that she's got just as much chance of getting back into this and perhaps even winning it.
Yeah. Obviously, Kang just shot a 28, which is, it's not an amazing score. It's a really good score, but there are people that are going to be able to get back from that. It's just that you need to shoot a high set score at the right moment, and that's exactly what An San just did.
10
What's always cool to see with Korean archers is how close they are to the clicker when they pull back. So how close the clicker is to going off before or when they get to anchor, because that is one of the things that makes them so consistent. If you need to pull, let's say, a couple millimeters through the clicker, that's always going to be more movement than when you're already, right at that point. And I think that's just down to shooting a whole bunch of arrows and getting that consistency in.
Well, Kang here with an opportunity, her first one, to take this semi-final.
on
And she finishes with a perfect 30. What a performance from her. There was a little rally in the middle from Ansan to get it back to 4-2. But Kang Chaeyoung looks very, very good at the moment. In her form looking pretty special, even by Korean standards.
Yeah, just no bad scores there. 29, 28, 28, 30, if I'm not mistaken. It's good, and especially finishing off with 30 when there is some pressure of winning the match. Yeah, good stuff.
Well, the good news is we'll see more of these two archers later on this afternoon. Ansan will be shooting for bronze in a few minutes indeed, and Kang Chaeyoung will be back a little bit later on, shooting for a gold medal here in Shanghai. Can she repeat the feat she achieved only a few seasons ago? That is the question.
Well, there we have it. Kang Chaeyoung taking the first recurve